So I'm reacting to Piers Morgan and Tomi Lahren as they debate teaching gender identity in school. Recently, we've been seeing a lot of videos, whether it be on TikTok, drag queen shows to kids. There's a bunch of children book now, like including trans people and gay people, which is all great and all, but I think the debate is, should this be something that we should be showing kids, at least when they're 5 to 6 years old? I didn't even know what gay was when I was like 6 years old.
Izzy Montague launched legal action in 2019 against her son's London school over an LGBT pride parade. Tomorrow, her case goes to court. It's the first case.
Wow. See, like that's, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of surprised only because of the state of America right now, but I mean, it makes sense. 78% of US parents say that it's inappropriate to teach under 9s. I mean, it's fair. It's fair. It's not nothing against gay people, but some of the content that I've seen, you know, sometimes it's been very sexualized things, right? It's like you wouldn't even show like something that's straight or heteronormative or cisgender or whatever you call it these days. Like you wouldn't want to like show that even to like 9-year-olds, right? Any sort of like sexually explicit content.
First case of its kind in the UK. She will claim a pride parade held at the school promoted gay lifestyles and indoctrinated children, and her child was 4 at the time. It's a debate raging on both sides of the Atlantic. In the US, 78% of parents do not believe sexual orientation or gender identity should be taught to young children. And now Donald Trump has, of course, got involved and said it's going to be a central part of his bid to return to the White House, branding gender ideology a cult.
We're going to stop the left-wing radical racists and perverts who are trying to indoctrinate our youth.
Dude, no matter what you think about Trump, like he is a funny dude. He was a funny ass dude, man. Like he says some wild ass shit during his presidency, but you know, he was fucking funny.
And we're going to get their Marxist hands off of our children.
And if anything, like the credit you need to give to is that he was like a marketing genius. He was a billionaire that convinced the working class people that I'm for you. Like, if that's not a marketing genius, I don't know what the hell is.
Defeat the cult of gender ideology and reaffirm that God created 2 genders called men and women.
All right. Tomi Lahren, let me start with you, because there's been a big burning issue in America now, raging away for quite some time. It's one of the reasons I think that Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, has seen such surging popularity, potentially heading him to the White House in this battle over what you can teach at school with young people in relation to this kind of thing. What is your view?
Listen, we do not need to be teaching this radical LGBT grooming agenda in schools. It's one thing if parents want to do that on their own time. That is a parent's right to do that, with some exceptions, of course. But to bring this in and bake this into a public school curriculum is wrong. And meanwhile,
it's an interesting too, because we need to also look at the kind of like the consistencies, right? So for example, I know in public schools you're not allowed to really teach about specific religions. Obviously that's reserved to, you know, private schools and whatever they want to do. So I think it's a good point in the sense that, you know, should we be teaching these types of things when it comes to education? I think though, like, strip everything out. Let's like try and look at it in the sense of like, I guess, showing sexually explicit things to minors, especially someone that's under 10, right? When I was under 10, all I was like thinking about was like action figures and Legos and playing outside. I don't think I was thinking about sex. I don't think I even knew that that shit existed or that's why I'm alive, right? I think we need to take a look at the more of the core of like why this is such a controversy.
Meanwhile, Chinese students are learning quantum physics, and we've got our students learning how to twerk from drag queens. It's not going to end well.
That's actually true though. I've heard something like I guess like the Chinese like TikTok version, what they show in China is completely different from like the degeneracy we see on TikTok here in America, in the sense that apparently I think in Chinese TikTok they show like, you know, cool math experiments or, you know, physical achievements or something like that. In US's TikTok, depending on your algorithm, you see like girls shaking their ass. Okay, maybe that's just my algorithm, but you see a lot more degeneracy compared to, I guess, apparently what's being fed in the algorithm there. I think in the Chinese algorithm too, you have like specific time limits on how much time you can even spend on the platform, instead of like kind of like the unlimited scrolling that you get in the American one.
This is grooming. This is ideological mind control. It's introducing this to a group of individuals, especially to young kids who have no business learning any of this sexually explicit material. This is not about being anti-gay or, as the incorrectly labeled Ron DeSantis' bill, don't say gay. This is about keeping this out of the classroom because it does not belong there. This is a grooming agenda. It is extreme. It is explicit. It does not belong in front of young children at their school. They should be learning reading, writing, and arithmetic, not this filth.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is like some like grooming agenda. Obviously, in any sort of movement, there's always going to be bad apples that take advantage of the situation. That goes for any movement. But I think ultimately what's happening here is the sense that, you know, we want to be so open-minded. We want to be able to be so inclusive where we're trying to take it into the extremes, right? I think ultimately, in my personal opinion, we shouldn't be teaching sex like this to under 9s, right? It doesn't make sense. Kids are nowhere near mature enough. In fact, I remember in my sex ed class, I think the first time I saw it was around 12 or 13 in middle school or elementary. And I started dying at the word penis, right? Like, it's during that age. Do you think that someone who's under 9 will be able to understand what they're being taught? And also, too, right, this goes for any age in the sense that the type of content that we consume is very important because that influences your thinking, your thoughts, and what you kind of allow in your headspace. And especially for kids, right? Especially when you're under 9, during your formative years where you're learning so much. Is this like the type of things that we should be focusing on instead of, you know, maybe, yeah, like she said, reading, writing, all the important basic skills that's going to last you a lifetime. I don't know if certain ideologies should be introduced before we can even know what 2 + 2 means.
Well, here in Britain, we know from research that nearly half of all lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender pupils in our schools have been bullied. Bullied, teased, sometimes subjected to physical violence, simply because of their sexuality or their gender identity. So this education in British schools is designed to combat bullying and to promote understanding and acceptance. None of the teaching in British schools is sexually explicit, nor is any of the material in United States schools. It is all about promoting understanding and tolerance. So what's just been said is a complete misrepresentation of the teaching, and I think that any parent would want their child to be brought up in a school where understanding and acceptance of difference is valued, where people are not bullied because of their sexuality.
Okay, here's a fair point. I mean, I don't know, like I have seen instances, I guess, where sexually explicit materials have been shared to under 9s, but I think, yes, like we obviously want to promote like equality and understanding of differences at a young age. But I also wonder too if America's kind of focuses too much on that, where then we focus so much on our differences where we just ignore the similarities that we inevitably share as humans. I think this is also leading to a lot of division that's been created, is that we're so focused on white people oppressing this, or black people have experienced this, and Asian people have this with that, with Latinos, and then all this. I think we're at a point now where we're so divided and so polarized because that's kind of what we've also just been brought up to believe. Right? Of course, we need to have personal responsibilities to be able to think critically, but to the masses, if we're constantly being told that, you know, because of what your ancestors did in the past, or because what, you know, your ancestors suffered in the past, that we need to act accordingly now, I don't think that's the right way. I don't think revenge is the right way to go about equality, or guilt or shame is the right way to strive towards equality. And I think that actually creates more division and silent hatred.
No one is compelling any child to go on a pride parade anywhere, not in school, not in the street, nowhere. And when it comes to teaching, the teaching is not about sex at a young age, it's about relationships. It's all about different families that kids in our schools are part of. And of course, all those kids should feel loved and appreciated. The essence of this teaching is about love and respect for other people. It's not about sex at all.
Okay, let's bring in the panel here. Paula?
Good evening. I completely agree with Peter, and I'm really concerned that a commentator could use the words radical and grooming when we're having a very sensible conversation about helping children to understand who they are.
You know what I've also noticed about these like UK debate shows is that it's so much more respectful than like a US debate show. I feel like US debate shows, I mean, look at our fucking presidential debates. You're yelling over each other, you know, you're completely ignoring the moderator's demands. Like, I feel like a UK like panel is like so respectful. You get time to like talk, present your own points, and how they even argue their points to the other side is so much more respectful, man. America's like debates are like ESPN sports talk shows.
Well, when you start teaching kids, I mean, the BBC, for example, had one of their teaching videos said there were over 100 genders. The BBC should not be teaching children there are 100 genders. One of them was astrogender, which is an affinity with the stars, right? The ones flying around the moon. I'm sorry. I do actually think that children should not be exposed to that kind of claptrap.
I don't dictate the curriculum,
can we let
but
children
I doubt
be
that's
children?
on there.
Particularly at that age.
Richard, they're growing up in households.
There's an age.
For years, at least even when I grew up, I learned that we had 2 genders, but now there can be 100, even an astrogender, whatever that means. So it's confusing, man. Like, how the hell is an under 9 supposed to know what that means? Right? They only see, you know, from their point of view and what they've learned so far, like mom and dad and, you know, men and women. So, you know, how are you going to give an example of an astrogender? Like, how do you show that in a children's book? How do you show an actual person who's an astrogender? And how does a child discern that?
Different.
There's an appropriate.
Then let their families, their families have the conversations they feel they should have.
Who are desperately concerned about what is being taught in primary school, and the truth is, we don't know what's being taught.
You have just heard about the high percentage of children who suffer bullying, who are vulnerable.
See, I think that's also a good point in the sense that we don't know who are the ones teaching, right? Because I doubt there's some established curriculum on the 100 genders that's being invented every single day, right? I think it's up to the kind of individual contributor or the teacher to be able to impart that knowledge. Who are these teachers? I think more and more too, like a lot of teachers are quitting because of low pay, low respect, especially in American culture where teachers are severely overworked and severely underpaid for their work and not valued. You're still going to need teachers to teach the next generation of kids in society, in which case are they lowering the bar? I'm sure this is even happening for cops too, because who's going to want to be a cop in the next couple of years, right? I'm sure this is happening to a lot of public servants in the sense that, are we lowering the standard now where maybe groomers are coming in to be able to teach these types of things? Or, you know, I don't think it's some like big worldwide agenda to be able to do that. But when the standards are lowered, are they being able to bring in the best educators to teach not only a very nuanced and difficult topic, but an extremely new one at that? And if they're not well equipped to be able to impart that knowledge to especially kids, you know, yeah, I can totally see why 78% of US parents says that they don't want this to be taught to under 9-year-olds. But I'm going to end it there. So if you want to see more reaction videos, subscribe. And if you want to check out the main channel, it's linked in the description. Thank you.